actual real estate in the metaverse. Yes, literal real estate, like buying a house, but they've bought a house in the metaverse. And what's going on, guys? Kieran Edley here from That NFT podcast. I nearly screwed that up because that is our new name from episode 3 onward. Episode 1 and 2, I was noticing people were having difficulty finding that NFT podcast because it was called NFTs, the what, why, and how, and I kept forgetting which way, why, and how went. But anyway, this is the rawest and realist NFT podcast out there. That is the goal. The goal is, of course, I want to give you as much information as possible around NFTs and crypto and keeping it as English-based as possible without going too far into the techie language, right? So we're trying to keep it nice and simple, accessible for the average Joe. I'm one of those average Joes, okay? So don't get offended if that's you, okay? It might not sound like it sometimes, but trust me, I am. Honestly, techie people look at me and they're like, what is this guy saying? That doesn't make sense. Because once one steps into that techie space, it can be very difficult to sort of translate that back into English. And when it is translated, it doesn't quite exactly make sense in compared to the way that it should be presented in the techie space, right? So my goal is, of course, to translate it as best as possible. It's going to at least help tease you, if you will, into that space a little bit more. And then when you start to understand and things start to click a little bit more and you see for yourself and you actually get experienced in that space, you'll start to see things more clearly, right? It's like the difference between when you see a photo of something to when you're really there. The experience is so different. Like if I showed you a photo of the beautiful view that I had in the hike that I did yesterday afternoon with my friend, right? Even a video of it, it's just not going to capture the same experience. And you're not going to be able to explain the experience that I had just by looking at the video. Your experience is going to be completely different. So it's just not translatable in that sense. And like I said, I'm going to do my best. So you're basically entering the video of the experience. And then when you step into it, you'll experience it. Let's go. Today, we're going to speak about the future of NFTs. Okay. If you haven't listened to our first 2 episodes, okay, episode 1 and 2, and you're learning more about NFTs, I highly recommend listening to those. All right, we speak about what NFTs are. So if it's not quite clicking on this episode, you want to listen to episode 1, and also how you can start to invest. So if you're interested in that stuff, episode 2, and we're going to start bringing on amazing guests as well. In fact, I'm going to drop one of the guests' names right now, Joseph Rakic, who has done incredibly well in the crypto space, in the NFT space, and I'll be very excited to possibly have him on. We're having chats, and it's very likely that we will, may or may not, but look forward to that. And some other amazing people in the space too, including people that have created their own NFTs. So that's very exciting stuff. Now, with that being said, I really want to speak about what NFTs are going to bring in terms of utility, in terms of capability in our future, because it's coming, it's here, it's now, right? And in order for us to speak about NFTs, we need to speak about crypto. Because without crypto, you can't get NFTs, right? I mean, yes, you can, but NFTs can't exist without crypto. Okay, you can get NFTs without crypto, but they can't exist without crypto. I can put it that way. They can't exist without the blockchain because they exist on the blockchain. All right, that's a space they exist. It's like peanut butter exists in the supermarket. Not quite, but that's where I want to go if I want to buy it. Right? It's like. I used peanut butter as the analogy last episode, but it's like if I want to if I want to get authentic Italian pizza, I need to go to Italy, right? Yeah, I can get pretty damn authentic Italian pizza here, but it's just not quite the same, right? Unless they import the type of flour that they have over in Italy, right? Then still it's technically coming from Italy, you see. So technically the concept of this beautiful authentic Italian pizza is coming from Italy. All right, the same thing goes with NFTs. So even if I say got a snapshot of my NFT, right, and I sent over the snapshot to you, you don't own that NFT. You own a JPEG of my JPEG. So when people see NFTs, right, they see this random picture that is worth thousands, if not millions of dollars, which is insanity to some people. It's not insanity to people in the space, but to many people it is. Now, you saying that, oh, well, I could just take a snapshot of this and I own it. No, you don't. I can sell it for millions. No, you can't. And the reason why is just this. Say I stood in front of your house and I took a selfie with your house in the backdrop. And I started saying, this is my house. What would you say to me? You'd be like, F off! It makes no sense. Of course it's not my house. But this is what people are doing with the when they're sort of being introduced to this NFT space and saying, oh, it's dumb, right? That's literally what they're doing. But it is quite literally valuable property. And now we'll get more into the details about why NFTs are so valuable and what the future utility is in a second. So we'll just speak briefly about why cryptocurrency is so valuable now and why it's going to be even more valuable coming. It's just this, all right? Now, the reason why inflation occurs is because money is constantly printed when it's needed, which essentially means that the supply of cash, okay, so the New Zealand dollars, USD, Australian dollars, Indian rupiah as examples, okay, that can be constantly printed by the government. So therefore the supply is virtually, not literally, but virtually infinite. And because the supply is so infinite, okay, meaning it just, they can constantly print it if they want, right? The demand will always technically be met. So although, yes, that puts them into debt and, all these other technical, economical concepts happen. Yes, that is truth. However, the actual idea or the concept or the utility of the dollar itself becomes less valuable. So per dollar becomes less valuable because so many more dollars are printed. So therefore, there's less total demand in comparison to supply. So that's why, 20 years ago, it cost my dad like, $3 to go, $2 to go to the movies, right? And now it costs us $20, 10 times the price. Why? Because the dollar is less valuable. The movie's just as valuable, but the dollar is less valuable. Same concept, loaf of bread. Okay, it might have cost my dad and my mother, 30 cents to buy a loaf of bread in the past. Now it costs, the same loaf of bread will be $3 or $4. Easy, literally minimum, right? And in another about 15 to 20 years, it's probably going to, again, 3, 4, 5-fold that. So that same loaf of bread is probably going to be $15, which is insanity, but that is actually what's happening consistently year by year. That's happening to the dollar. And it's not because bread is getting more expensive. It's not because movies are getting more expensive, right? Yes, there's more money being poured into it. However, it's actually more so because the value of the dollar is going down. And this is globally. Now, cryptocurrency is very different. There is only a finite number of each currency. So for example, with Bitcoin, there is only 21 million Bitcoins. Now, it sounds like a lot. It's actually not very much. I don't think all of them have even been mined either, right? So there's more Bitcoin still being mined, and that's just another term that is not for this podcast, okay? That's going to be an in-depth explanation. Essentially what it means is there's Bitcoin that haven't been claimed by human like beings, right? Human beings. Some of them aren't owned by human beings. They're still existing on the blockchain, so in the space where they haven't been found. It's like gold, right? I'm sure there's, millions, if not billions, worth of value in gold that still exists in our Earth that hasn't been claimed. So it's sort of like that, but it doesn't exist on the planet. It exists on the blockchain, right? So it's like that. But essentially, because there's only 21 million, right? When it was first purchased, I couldn't find the value. I tried to do a quick Google search, but I'm sure someone will be able to find it, and please share it with me. But I'm sure initially a singular Bitcoin was something like a few cents or $1 or something like that in order to buy one Bitcoin, right? Just the other day, I had a look and it was mid 60,000 New Zealand dollars, which is, almost, not far off 50,000 US dollars in value for one Bitcoin. So imagine if back in the day you bought 5 Bitcoin and say they were $1 each, you'll literally have over 300,000 New Zealand dollars in Bitcoin. And this, I can't remember when this was. This would have been about 2011 or even earlier, 2007. I don't know. But in sort of 10 to 15 years ago when these things started to show up, and people were starting to talk about it a little bit. I only first heard about it, 3-4 years ago. And I only really got into crypto end of last year, start of this year. But yeah, it's been a crazy journey for myself learning about it as well. Anyway, now what's going to happen, and the reason why it's become so valuable, is because there will never be more than 21 million Bitcoin. But because there's more utility around Bitcoin, meaning, at one point Tesla was accepting Bitcoin, so you could use Bitcoin to buy a Tesla, right? And also various other stores will accept Bitcoin. I'm sure Amazon will start to utilize it if they haven't already. Maybe they have. I haven't actually looked, but companies like that will actually accept Bitcoin as payment, and therefore it becomes a currency that is utilizable. And because there's only a finite amount, and no more supply will ever come, but demand keeps going, the space between supply and demand is closing, and therefore the value is drastically increasing and continually compounding. So because it compounds, right, based on the amount of users of Bitcoin, right? So, for example, the New Zealand dollar, there's only basically the amount of people that exist in this country, plus, maybe, a few other, a few 10,000 more or a few 100,000 more that have utility of New Zealand dollars outside of this country, of course. So therefore, compared to Bitcoin, which has, I don't know how many users, I think it's like 100 million or 200 million or something like that, which is, insanity, somewhere around there anyway, of users of Bitcoin. Because there's so many users of that, right? You think about how much value that has and why it has so much more value than New Zealand dollar. When New Zealand dollar can keep being printed, Bitcoin cannot, right? So already there's so many more people that value the currency of Bitcoin than even the New Zealand dollar, you see. And the New Zealand dollar is a cash asset, whereas Bitcoin is not, right? Because it's a digital asset, right? So it's a digital currency. Now, with that being said, hopefully that starts to help you to understand a little bit more. So, for example, I would have probably used maybe 10 Bitcoin to buy a loaf of bread back in when Bitcoin first came out. Now, obviously hypothetically, now it literally I would be using 0.000001 Bitcoins to buy it. You see, so that's what I mean is cryptocurrency is going the opposite way of inflammation. Inflammation. Gosh, I've forgotten the word. You know what I mean? Starts with I believe. I can't remember. I said it earlier in this podcast, but you get my point. Whereas the dollar is going the other way and it's becoming less valuable. So that's the way with cryptocurrency. Now, there are stable coins out there. So, coins like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Chainlink. These are some of the major ones. Solana, rather. Sorry. You'll kill me otherwise, you tech people. And also Cardano as well. So these are dubbed stable coins, meaning they not only have strong utility, they've got strong stability, right? Showing that even though it's volatile, the volatility percentage is much less than something like I don't know, like Shiba coin, for example, right? Or Dogecoin, right? Which is more, which is not quite considered something like a stable coin. It's considered an altcoin. Now that's stuff for completely other stuff. If you want to get into crypto investing, this is not going to be the channel for it. This is about NFT investing. I just want to give you the basics of that. So now that we've sort of covered roughly sort of what a lot of this cryptocurrency stuff is and why it's going to be such a utility, right? Also, I've mentioned in the past podcast where, of course, things like Ethereum are going to be the only currency that's that can access places like OpenSea. I think Polygon can as well, but Polygon's on the Ethereum blockchain. But these currencies are necessary in order to buy certain assets and also necessary in order to access certain things, right? So, for example, the metaverse, which is a concept of NFTs, all right, which we're going to get to on like literally right now, exists on the blockchain, and I need to be on the Ethereum blockchain. In other words, I need to have an NFT on the Ethereum blockchain that has access to the metaverse rather, right? Because that project has invested in space in the metaverse so that they can gain access, and maybe they've even bought actual real estate in the metaverse. Yes, literal real estate, like buying a house, but they've bought a house in the metaverse, right? Metaverse, sort of like an online world. If you imagine RuneScape, right? You can buy, I can't remember if you could buy a house or not, but you could build stuff, you could gather food, you could do all the stuff, right? So it's like that. It's like this online virtual reality in a way, but it's going to be a lot more involved in terms of the things that you can do. You could go to literally Snoop Dogg is building an NFT space in the metaverse, right? I think it's coming soon, and you can go to Snoop Dogg concert in the virtual world with your NFT character, right? So these are the crazy things that are happening. Another thing that that's happening with NFTs, actually, I want to do an order because I write down a few things that are happening literally as we speak. These things are starting to happen, which is insanity, right? So Apple, right? Apple are bringing out Apple glasses sometime next year, right? In 2022. So essentially what Apple glasses will allow you to do is it will allow you to make calls from your glasses, right? So you don't even need to get out your phone. You'll be able to start seeing things on your glasses screen, right? Like text messages, notifications, and things like that. And you'll be able to gain data from your Apple glasses seeing certain things. So you might be able to even get maps up on your screen while you're driving, right? On your glasses, so you can be driving and you can get the little maps on the glasses, and then you can see where you're going while at the same time seeing the maps, right? And then like a little arrow might come up and say turn right, right? From your glasses. Now the cool thing about this and how it relates to NFTs is, say I own a VFriend, so I own a Karma Kiwi in my crypto wallet. So now say someone else with a VFriend that comes along and looks at me with their Apple glasses, and I've got my Apple glasses on, they're going to see literally above my head a freaking Karma Kiwi. How crazy is that, right? They're going to see my NFT wallet if I've made it public, which most likely I will, right? Because then people will be able to see what sort of assets that I own. It's like someone, driving a Ferrari, right? And that's sort of the crypto punks and the bored apes of the NFT space. So these are projects, you can literally look them up, right? For example, and the crazy thing about these projects is how much more valuable they are than even a Ferrari, right? But the way that someone might show off a Ferrari, now people are going to be showing off crypto punks and bored apes and even VFriends, right? Because they're going to be even so much more valuable in the next few years. I'm sure one day they'll get to more than hundreds of thousands, right? Because already they're hitting the 100,000 mark, which is crazy. Now, this is just to give you an idea of the most expensive NFTs that have ever been sold, right? Let's go with number 5 through to number 1 that have ever been sold, right? The 5th most expensive NFT that's ever been sold was by Crossroad at $6.66 million US just for a JPEG. Yep. You can Google this stuff. Now, the next, so this is actually even, so top 5. And then from 4 through to 2 is by CryptoPunks, right? The 4th most expensive was 7.51 million. The 3rd most expensive is 7.56 million US dollars. The 2nd most expensive NFT that's ever been sold was 11.8 million US dollars, and that was a CryptoPunk as well. So you can literally look at them up. They look like little Game Boy figures from, the 1980s or whenever freaking Game Boy brought this stuff out, right? In the very first go. And it's just such terrible quality. Like, it's a tiny image that's been blown up, right? So that's why it's such crappy quality and so pixelated. Yet it's still selling for so much. Why? Because again, it's a finite asset. There's only 10,000 CryptoPunks. So therefore, because all these big people own them, not only do you get access to a asset that all these big famous people have, you also get access to the community that CryptoPunks has. So for example, people like, I think Steph Curry owns some CryptoPunks, I believe, and people like even of course, Gary Vaynerchuk, I'm sure you guys have heard of him, right? He has many CryptoPunks, like multiple. And then, all these big business gurus and all these massive celebrities have CryptoPunks. So I would actually if I had a CryptoPunk, I would get access to that community as well. And I'll be a part of their community. And then also as well, that's like me showing off a Bugatti Veyron, for example, or something even more expensive than that. That's like me driving that around, except having that plus, maybe if I had like 10 CryptoPunks, it's like having that, then plus a, 10-car garage full of other amazing cars that are worth millions, right? So that's the crazy thing about having this, except people are going to see all of them at once. They're going to see your entire car garage at once with their Apple glasses, because they're going to be able to see you and then be like, holy crap, this guy has 10 CryptoPunks. That guy is balling, right? And people value that stuff. Why do you think people buy a Louis Vuitton bag for $10,000 when you could buy the same quality for literally less than $100, right? Literally 100-fold less, which is insanity for a freaking badge and bought from a particular retailer. That is insanity. But this is what people do, is they buy for these brands because of the fact fact that they represent, first of all, an emotional aspect, right? Which is what's so big in sales, right? It's a big concept of sales is people buy for emotion. And then also as well, the other side is the fact that it represents an image. So they get to portray an image of themselves to the world that they want to be seen as, right? And so that's why NFTs would be, well, one of the reasons why NFTs become so valuable. Now, the most expensive NFT ever sold was a lot more than 11.8 million, which is the second most expensive NFT, which is a CryptoPunk. Most expensive was sold by Beeple. Okay, you can Google him, you can Instagram him. Beeple sold an NFT called 500 days, literally 500 days. He took a picture every single day for 500 days and sold it as an NFT, all 500 pictures, right? He sold it for $69.3 million US dollars. You heard me. And also, excuse me, they're doing some work on upstairs, I believe. Sounds like they're nailing something. But anyway, putting that aside, that is insanity, right? And you can actually YouTube a video of him getting all excited because, like, you know, even goes up to like 1 million. He's like, oh, it's 1 million, right? That's crazy. Like, you know, the NFT space is still coming. This was actually, you know, I think even 2017 or something. But this is sort of what really kickstarted the whole concept of NFTs. And then it kept going up to like 20 million. He's like blown away, and then it goes 69 million. He's like, what? That's crazy, right? It's a real cool video to watch, but you can sort of see that's the initiation of many aspects of what NFT is today, which is insanity, right? Now, the other thing is NFTs are in a way going to be replacing the trade of social media accounts. So, for example, if I, meet a new person, if I really want to understand some of the things that they're into, I'll actually be getting their NFT wallet address rather than their Instagram handle. Why? Because now I can go back and I can see that they got the NFT of the 2012 Nirvana concert. No, not 2012, but let's say like the 2000 Nirvana concert, if that was a thing, in Las Vegas, right? And I went there, and it required an NFT in order to gain access to the concert, because the NFT was a ticket itself. And this will start happening, as NFTs will become the ticket for that thing. For example, in order to get Gary Vaynerchuk's new book, 12 and a half, I believe it was sold as an NFT, I think. And you had to buy the NFT in order to get the book, right? From my understanding, something like that. But yeah, he's been talking a lot about that, but where you'll buy a book, but you'll buy the NFT and you'll get the book, right? Where you'll buy literally the NFT of the furniture and then you'll get the couch, right? Delivered to your door, but because you had to get the NFT first, right? And the reason why is because because it was becoming so virtual, right? That NFT couch that I've got will now be utilizable in the metaverse as well. I'll be able to take that couch and put it in the metaverse. I'll be able to store Gary V's book on my bookshelf in the metaverse. You see, so these things are now accessible, utilizable in the metaverse. And you might be sitting there thinking, well, that sounds so geeky, I'm never going to be a part of that. You say that now, but why the heck did you sign up to Facebook? Why the heck did you sign up to Instagram? Once upon a time, you were resistant to that too. Once. You might not even remember it, right? But at one point you were. And that's why NFTs are called Web 3.0, because it literally is an entire new space and concept of the web. Web 1.0 was just the internet, 1995, right? Web 2.0 was, in 2004, 5, 6, right? When social media was starting to come. Web 2.0. Web 3.0 is now 2017 to 2021 and onward is the metaverse, NFTs, right? This whole virtual reality aspect. This is Web 3.0. It's insanity, but it's truth. It's here, right? Now, the other thing as well is it's also going to, like, my VFriend is access to VCon, which is 3 years in a row going to be this business conference that I can go to, and I can meet, famous business leaders from all over the globe, which is just amazing, right? And you have to own a VFriend in order to gain access. I can't even take a friend unless they also own a VFriend, or I own a second VFriend and I can bring them due to the fact that that is the ticket, right? Steve Aoki has also gotten, I've got one of his NFTs actually, and that gives me access to certain concerts that NFT holders gain access to, right? So many times a year for the rest of life, because I have one of his NFTs, which is insane, right? But that's beautiful, because that means I don't need to go and pay for, Steve Aoki concerts if I just want to go to a Steve Aoki concert, but certain ones, okay? And there'll be certain things that he'll be running just for the NFT holders that own some of his products. The other thing as well is Steve Aoki is out of the NFTs that he's built. So I've got a Neon Future NFT, which is one of his projects that he collabs with Tom Ballou, which is he's a massive person in the business world. I will basically, he's going to be utilizing the characters that he used for his NFTs as part of this TV show that he's making. So he's literally making a TV show and a skit and a comic and everything like that with the characters of that. And then what happens is these characters become famous, and then the NFTs themselves become more valuable because of that. So it's like how, you know, people got really into Pokemon, right? And then all of a sudden, the trading cards of Pokemon, which what they were originally anyway, they were trading cards before they were even a TV show, right? The trading cards themselves became more valuable because of that. Like if you think about Charizard today, right? Once upon a time was literally a few cents, right? And, you know, eventually a few dollars and then so on. And now it costs, the last sale of a Charizard went at $399,750 US. That's how valuable an original version of Charizard, I believe it's a certain shiny version with no shadow or something like that, is worth almost 400,000 US dollars, basically 400,000 US dollars. Right, and the reason why is because of the fact that firstly it represents one, nostalgia, okay, and we'll get to the nostalgia aspect in NFTs, and two, it represents rarity, okay, three, it represents perceived value, right? And the reason why it's perceived value is because the fact that it's related to like a TV show, it's a character, people have love for that character, and therefore this utility aspect becomes so valuable. Right, look at some of the splash paints that you see. I don't even know really many artists. I'm not too much into the art concept in terms of like in depth. Anyway, I love art, but not as much as many other things, which is why I don't know the names. And people, you know, will do a splash and they'll write their signature and they'll sell it for millions of dollars. Right? I can literally lay out a piece of paper. I've never done art in my life, and well, I have, but not much. And I can literally splash it and have it look pretty similar, right? If I had a nice artist, you know, teach me some skills, I could have it look pretty similar. I'll put my signature on it, and it sells for zero. If I'm lucky, maybe a few cents, right? But that's the crazy thing about this is the fact that it's because of the brand, the concept, the emotion, the image behind this that makes it so valuable. But then also as well, there's people that invest in things because of cool concepts and cool art, right? So for example, Beeple with 500 days, right? $69 million later, right? It's because it wasn't as much about the name, which it was definitely about the name, but it was about the concept. Right, and the fact that there was so much perceived value of this concept, especially because it was a new concept since it was the new space of NFTs. So how nostalgia comes into NFTs is the fact that it's similar to the whole trading card concept, right? So baseball cards, football cards, all these different types of like trading cards that once were a big thing once upon a time, and you know their value was so big, and adults, you know, including myself, who had trading cards, who were like, I had Yu-Gi-Oh cards, I had Pokemon cards, I had Duel Masters was my favorite, right? So I had these trading cards, and they were perceived value at the time. So I was willing to spend lots of money on this, and I was so involved in it in my own world that it became, you know, basically my world at like one point in my life. And what NFTs does is it brings back the nostalgia of that experience of having these things that are valuable and being able to trade them in a way, sort of, right? But more so being able to utilize them in a place like the metaverse. And I own the characters, right? It's not like RuneScape where you technically own the character, but like anyone can sign up. So it's just not the same perceived value. Whereas when you've got a CryptoPunk and you're in the metaverse of, and you can only access certain parts in the metaverse that only CryptoPunks can access, or only VFriend holders can access, or only Impact Theory holders can access, right? It's become so much more valuable. So I might be walking along in the metaverse, and you might say something, right? And you're like, oh, I'm going over there, and I see this big, and this is something that Tom Ballou described because it's his project, and he says you might see a big IT, which is an Impact Theory logo on the wall, and I might be like, oh guys, do you see that? Do you see the door, right? And then you guys might be like, no, I don't see anything, right? But I'm like, no, it's right there, right? And I walk through this door that has this big IT sign on it, and it looks like on your end that I'm just disappearing through a wall, but because I'm the one that has an impact theory NFT and you guys don't, you guys won't see that, I will, right? And then this will start to come into the real world as well. Like I might be walking past and impact whatever shops that impact theory has a relationship with, they might give me discounts. So I might see you through my Apple glasses, right, on the screen of the store that there is a 20% sale on now. And I'm like, oh guys, do you see the sale? And they're like, no. Right? But I'm like, but it's right there. And they're like, no, because you don't have an NFT in your wallet that's connected to your glasses. So therefore you can't see it. So I go in the store and and they can see through their glasses that I'm holding a NFT from Impact Theory. And they're like, oh, hey sir. And they come over and give me priority because they're connected with Impact Theory, right? And then, make a sale and I automatically get 20% off without doing anything. Right, so these are things that are literally happening as we speak. And yes, these glasses are coming next year, guys, which is insanity, but it's happening, right? So all these things are just all these crazy things that are happening as we speak. And again, it's like how the internet in 95, 96, 97, when people were like, what the heck is this? People didn't even bother getting into it, right? How quickly the internet grew in terms of users on the internet was by, I think on average, I've actually got the stats right here. Raoul Paul, who is very famous in the investment space, literally top investors in the world, asked for his advice. Raoul Paul was saying that, I need to find the image. He was saying that, so the internet at its beginning was growing at about 62% per annum in users, which is it's actually quite a lot. If you think about the compounding effect, right? Say there were 100,000 users of the internet in 97 or whatever, right? This is just a guesstimate, right? By 98, there'll be 162,000 users. And then, by 99 there'll be what's 60% of that, so let's go 80 70 I don't know, like 90, 100, so there'll be like 250,000 260,000 users, right? So you can see the compounding effect. Then it just compounds on top of that and it continues. Now with the blockchain's growing 2 times as quickly. It's been growing at 113% per annum. So it's growing faster than the internet did, right? And so they're estimating that there's, just over 200,000 users in blockchain now. And what they're saying is by 2024, there's going to be 1 billion users because of the fact that it's growing at 113% per annum, right? So next year, there's going to be 400,000 users. The year after that, it's going to be 800,000 users. And then, of course, it crosses over the billion. So that's the crazy thing about this compounding effect of how users are just growing, right? Now, because there's going to be so many users, because there's so many users on the internet, people already have computers and phones. Therefore, that's why blockchain also has the ability to grow in users so quickly, because people already have the assets. Whereas before, people didn't have computers, or many didn't even have phones, so like mobile phones, so they didn't even have access to something that could connect to the internet, right? So because people didn't have the technology to access that, but now because so many people are not only on the internet, but so many people are also on the blockchain, NFTs are going to grow even faster than what actual blockchain utilization itself has been growing, because of the fact that it already has so many people involved in that space, right? So NFTs are going to grow and skyrocket even more, and I don't know what the effect is yet because there's no stats that I've seen that that tell me, right? Some other news as well, Steve Aoki is working on a show. I already mentioned this, so it's called Dominion X, right? Which is pretty cool. Stoner Cats also is another NFT project, and it has already a show that you can only access the show if you own one of the NFTs as well, right? And not only that, but it's people like Mila Kunis, Chris Rock, Jane Fonda that are actually doing voiceovers for these Stoner Cats, right? So if you want to go on and watch the series, you need to own the NFTs. And then also because of the series as well, and they're going to do other things with the characters of the series, that's also going to elevate the value of these NFTs over time. So these are, all cool concepts. A really cool picture that I saw posted on Instagram, it said Airbnb, right? The world's largest accommodation provider, and they own no real estate. Alibaba, the world's most valuable retail owner, and they own no inventory. Facebook, the world's most popular media owner, and they own no content. Well, technically they kind of do, but in the way they don't actually, right? Uber, the world's largest taxi company, they own no vehicles. Bitcoin, the world's biggest bank with no actual cash. That's the world. That's where the world is headed, guys. We've got proof time and time and time again. And NFTs are in the 95, 96 of the internet, in the 2004, 5, 6 of social media. That's where they're at now. As people are so skeptical, they're saying no, they're pushing it to the back burner. And then, 4, 5, 6 years later, they're going to be like, what the heck is this? It's everywhere. I need to do it now, right? It's like those people that were resistant to the iPhone. All of a sudden, everyone's using iPhone and, smartphones. I'll just say smartphones because some people are big Samsung fans, right? Go you, right? But the concept is, or the idea behind it is the fact that these are things that, yes, is going to be many people are going to be no people initially, but when everyone is doing it, it's just going to be the norm, and therefore that's just going to be something that most of the world adopts. So that's basically what I wanted to touch on around what's coming. Already people are utilizing these ideas and putting a lot of perceived value on digital assets. Like, look at Fortnite. How many millions of dollars is being spent on skins every year in Fortnite, right? Let alone every month, right? Literally to buy a skin for your character, so like what your character looks like on Fortnite, that doesn't have any perceived value from many outside users, right? From many outside people, but the users of that game perceive it as incredibly valuable because it's the way that every other player sees them on as their character on that game, right? So there's so many reasons why the NFTs are the future and why they're becoming so valuable. Let's look at maybe one or two other things that I noted. Collectors, can show off their art. So people that are big collectors, so people that would normally have awesome art in their home that really would like people to see it. So, they'd host parties or they'd have people over in order to basically show off their house interior because they're so passionate about their art pieces, or they post it on social media. But now, again, people can literally, walk around on the street and everyone can see that they own the CryptoPunks, the Bored Apes, the V-Friends, the Stoner Cats, right? Or many other awesome NFTs that are out there. And the final one that was on my mind that I really wanted to mention, which was on the tip of my tongue, it was right there, is, pause for 2 seconds, hold on. Can't remember it. Anyway, mustn't be that important. But essentially, we're starting to really see how all these things can be incredibly valuable. So I think I'm going to stop there because I have lost where I was going outside of that, but I think it's been long enough. Anyway, guys, if you found this valuable, please subscribe and share it on your social media. This will help us grow. That's the idea. And therefore, we're doing more episodes and also reaching amazing guests and getting awesome guests on the podcast. I and my friend have something in the works as a business partner and business partnership, and we're going to be doing something really cool with people that are very aligned with our values in the NFT space. So stay tuned. Outside of that, next episode we will be touching on a little bit about what I'm invested in, and I'll go into depth as to why I'm invested in them, and also projects that I'm looking forward to. So they're projects that I'd even suggest to you, and this is not financial advice, guys, but I'd even suggest, right? Not recommend, but suggest. Be like, hey, if you want to get into the NFT space, this is probably a good place to start, right? So I think that's basically it, guys. I love you guys. Thank you for tuning in. And be sure to find us on Instagram, that NFT podcast. All that stuff is going to be in the show notes. Or if you're on YouTube, it'll be in the description. And you can find me at Coach Keza. Coach Kezza on Instagram. And TikTok is like that, but it's got an underscore between Coach and Keza. All right. And that's it. I'll see you guys later. Thanks for tuning in.